Alright lads and lasses, welcome along. Time for another weekend, innit? Sorry it's running a bit late, I've had one of them weeks, I just seem to be just swamped, done all sorts. Right, I promised we'd start going through dataset 4, a bit more data in there, isn't there? Let's have a look at it, eh? So if you remember where we were before, we're going to deal with delivery plans, we're going to do a modelling and with tables, and we'll start talking about joins and stuff like that as well. I've looked into the dataset and I've gone through 4 or 5 different ways of doing it, and I'm going to push joins back to next week, but we'll hopefully get a bit better with it. It's more just there's so much little bits to do with it. But the key things we want to cover today, the main things to get your head around is what did we use Query Editor for? And primarily it's Power BI's ETL tool, so extract, transform and load. So what you're going to do is we're going to connect to a data source, we're going to get some data out of it, we're going to kind of jigger it up a bit, transform it, and then we're going to load it into Power BI. That's the way you work, that's the habit to get used to. So for dataset 4, what we're importing a CSV first, and we're going to whack in a calendar, and I've got the M calendar forwards. I'll make sure it gets put up on the website as well. And then we're going to split out some of the stuff. So if you remember the inspected by and the lab, it was just really dirty data. It just wasn't worth using. Wait, it wasn't worth using. It needed some cleaning up. So I'll take you through how you would clean it up. I'm not going to do a full clean up today because there's a lot in it and I just need to get some time. And then the last one I've done just more to show you is this borough. So I thought we'll split the borough out, but one of the things about it is you probably wouldn't want them just alphabetical. You'd want like them probably in a different order. So what I've done is I've put Manhattan on the top, and that's just because they've got the most, and the rest I've put alphabetical. You could do other things with it, but I thought that it kind of shows you how to do it if you wanted to do it. So I thought we'll do that. That's a good way to do it. There are other ways, and we're going to go through some of the other ways when we do some of the other videos, or if we get requests, we'll say, oh, this is how we would have done it otherwise. But that's where we're starting with. And then we're going to reorder some of the columns to then unpivot the test and result data. And unpivoting that, what it's going to give her is it's going to give her a single column of data and a single column of like tests or results. And that'll work really well because then you'll be able to like pick and choose what you need to see and how you need it to work. And then the best thing is you write your measures just as you would if it was all different columns. But because it's all one column, it makes it much easier, much quicker. It's a really simple way, and it's much more efficient for Power BI to then store that as a columnar data set. Alright? So should we crack on? Should we get off into our model? So I've done a lot of the stuff already, but what I'll do is I'll remind you, Power BI, you bring stuff in and you get your applied steps. So the first one we've got is we've pulled in the main table. And all I've done when I've pulled this main table in is I've unticked this to enable load. So what that means is I've got a data set or a data source now connected to my Power BI file. I'm not doing out with it, but it's just there to start we're off. Alright? Now I've got my dates. So the way I've done this is I've gone, let's just copy it. Just to prove to you how easy it is. Tell you what, I'll even delete it. So we'll come in, going to create a new source here. It's going to be a blank source, blank query. We're going into the advanced editor of the blank query, just highlight everything and Control V to paste it in. And what I've written it so you just need to give it a start year and then a whole number for the number of years you want in your calendar. So, and it's going to run from the 1st of January from whatever year you pick for however many years you want. Those are the 2 parameters you need to put in for it. And then all it does is it works out a few other things, a few other columns or a few other data type things, and then sets them up appropriately. So we now have a brilliant, nice calendar just to start us off. Over time, we can keep adding stuff to this. If you just want and you say, oh, how would I add? How would I put it in here, man? You know, we'll make this date table work really well for everyone. But basically, that's the starting for it. So we've got that started. I'll put that up on our site. So we'll have our date table. Well, now what a date table looks like. Brilliant. for the inspection firms, what I've done, you can see here, so we've actually taken just the CSV, just like we did with everything else, and then we've just filtered it down, so we're just looking at just this one column. We've then removed the duplicates from it, sorted them alphabetical, converted it into a table, which is kind of what you do, and I've renamed the column inspection firm. Now that's kind of about as much as you can do at the minute. Yeah, last thing I'll change the text. This will work for you. This will do a real good job of helping you get to where you've got your slicer. The main thing that you need to think through is that you've got all these things here, like all these American pipe and tank companies here, and work further down, all these American pipe and tank companies, American pipe and tank lining. Chances are it's all the same company, I would guess. Unfortunately, there's no quick and easy way to deal with these sorts of things. This is where you've just got to get down and, you know, do the work. So what I've done is I've set up a spreadsheet. So we've got another spreadsheet. So we've got the inspection firm, which is I've just copied out from a Power BI file. If we go back to it, I'll show you. So just right click on it, copy it. I come back here, I'll get a new tab. Look, then paste it. Alright. So it's something like that. Yeah. No worries. You can see I've just set it up. I've made it a table, which just it's a good habit to get into if you're going to use Excel. I have to say, set them as tables as much as possible. And then I've gone through line by line, and you start to change it. As you can see, I've not got all the way through, which is why I'm saying, you know, it's not going to happen today where I'll take you through everything. But we'll carry on. We'll go through. I'll sort all this out. And honestly, it's not going to be perfect, but I'll do my best to have a good crack at it and think, well, you know, is Atlantic Cooling Technologies and Services the same as Atlantic Cooling, which is the same as Atlantic? It probably is, isn't it? So all I'll do is copy that and then paste them three over that. And that's kind of how we've been going. Even Atlantic Tank, let's just say that's the same place. You keep going down the list like this. If we're doing this in a proper business and it was like, oh, Hellman, my business needs to be right, it would need to be right. So we'd need to be going back and checking and validating and saying, right, have we got a typo? This is the kind of thing that you will see in the real world an awful lot of the time. Yeah, anywhere where you've got people hand typing in fields, you're gonna get stuff like this happening. And the problem that you face is that when they're hand typing them fields and they're critical fields for your analysis, it needs to be standardized. So you've got to do this, these manual tasks. There isn't a better way of doing it. As I say, I could think through a few ways we could kind of try and standardize and build and, you know, strip all the excess characters out of it and then say, right, based on this, which are the same. It would kind of work, you know, if we took all the dots and all the ampersands and everything like that out of it, commas and nails. It might work, but I couldn't, it still wouldn't give you a better result than this. And the reality is, once it gets down to this stage, you're going to have to get someone to do the legwork. So, you know, getting it right in the system is important because this is where really the rubber meets the road. So, you know, have a think on it. I'll go through, we'll sort these out. Lab, all I've done, I've renamed it to tested by. So when I go through and finish this, it'll be tested by. Last thing, the blanks, I've just put them as unknown. So when it comes in and it's all joined in, which it will be in the relationships, that's why we're not doing them, you'll see how it all ties together and it'll all make sense. But it's really important that you kind of get your head around that you've got to fix your data at some point. And there's no way, there's no shortcuts to it. It's just effort. Alright, so we'll get on, we'll crack on, that'll all happen. The last thing we've done, or the other thing, I've taken borough, and I've mentioned that I was going to set Manhattan as the first borough, so I've added this ordinal column to the boroughs. And I've just done it very similarly to how we start with the CSV file, in that we start with the basics of it, we stick it all in, and then we get going. So it start with the basics, pulled it through, leave we were one column as a list, remove the duplicates, sorted them alphabetically, and then all I've done is I've added this custom column or conditional column to it. It's just a list of all the values. It's fine if you've got, say, less than 10 values. If you start having more than that, there's other ways of doing it, but this will work. You know, you could have done something similar. As I say, if you've got more than 10, you could do something in Excel if you have to. You could also do something based on a count. So it would be very possible to do a count of borough in terms of actually how many indexes have they got, how many rows have they got. In fact, tell you what, let's do something like that, shall we? Yeah? That's where to do this. So let us start from here. Let's reference that. So we've now got one new way. Let's do borough. Borough new. So we've got a reference source there. Now let us do this. Highlight that, right click on it, and group by. It's going to group around borough with a count. Right, so now we're now where we need to go. So we could even just use this as our borough, couldn't we? Because what this is going to mean is it's going to count how many of them have got, or how many inspections are there. So whenever we have a slicer for borough, it's going to base it on that. So we've got that count is going to base it on it. So Manhattan will be at the top, then Brooklyn, then the Bronx, then Queens, then Staten Island. Can't argue with them, can't fight with that logic, can you? That works really well for you, because what you'll do is you'll sort them by this, yeah? So there's a couple of things that you might find you need to do, but basically this will work for you, because you've got your highest value, which you wouldn't have appear top, and your lowest value, which won't appear at the bottom. So you'll have to make sure that when you sort the rows by another column, you sort it in reverse order. Aye, but we'll get through to that when we get into it. But I tell you what, let's delete that borough, and I'll tell you what, I'll just untick the enable load. So it's still there just in case somebody wants it. There we go now. Last thing we've done, taking a duplicate of inspections. You can see we've got everything there. We've split the inspection date out to make that actually work properly. So we've taken it out because it was a US date format, and tell you what, man, Newcastle's not in the US. We can't handle US date formats. So I've split it out. I've rebuilt the date as a custom column to then rebuild it into a date type, and then we've now got a nice inspection date that works as a date format. The last thing we're going to do is I've removed some columns, so just columns that we just aren't needing. Right, like the batch date, all the other temporary columns, a few other things as well. We might find at some point we need to renew them or put them back, but this is easy. We can go into this, back in the query editor, remove that simple thing. It's dead easy. Just remove that. Take it out. So if we want to bring a lot back, we can bring a lot back in. Just for my sake, I've reordered the columns. So what I've done is I've put all the test and result information on the right hand side of it, and on the left hand side I've got the core columns that I think we're going to use, or we might possibly use, you know, up to including latitude and longitude and stuff like that. And then the last thing we've done is we've unpivoted the values. So every row has become 26 rows. So we've got whether it's inspection was performed, all the other stuff, the internal structure, was there insect debris in the stuff, all that's there, and we've got one column of values. And suddenly we've gone to a data set that's got a lot less columns. It's a lot narrower now, so it'll be more efficient for Power BI to store. There's other things you could do. So once we've gone and we're finished our lookup in Excel for these, you might add a column for numbers, or an index column based on the unique number of that, of the unique lab name that you've got, the actual proper formatted lab name, and you could then do a join or a merge them in and replace them. I'm not going to do that today because I think we're getting into the stage where there's lots of things being thrown at you, and I'd rather you started trying to build what you've seen. So we can put the file up, we can scan through a few things, and we can sort out helping you all get started with this. But the main thing I want you to think through is narrower data sets. I didn't like seeing, oh, I've got like 200 columns in my data set. It's great, isn't it? It's never great if you've got 200 columns in a single table. It's not good. We've pulled this right back down. In theory, we could have got to the point even lower if we put in an index value for these, for each test, and then pulled it down, and then pivoted it based on that. So we'd have this index value. In some ways, some people say you didn't even need that. I think you do, because you need to be able to tie it to the location. For a proper fact table, you want to have something that's tying what are the facts, what was the event, what happened, what are we tracking. This will work, but we need to do something. If we were doing this properly and we want to really make this a much bigger scale thing, we'd need to sort out our geography, I think. And that's the bit that I've kind of skipped over for this piece, because I didn't know enough about how NTA and census tracts and all the street and lot names and all that all tied together. If I knew what I was dealing with, I was from a US perspective, and I wasn't going to get people from the US going, "Oh man, what are you playing at? You just didn't know what you're doing." There might be a few Geordies in America, you never know, but you know, the important thing is, I know this would be something I'd need to do if I was going to take this to the next level. For this, it'll work. We'll be able to get our analysis done. We'll be able to build our maps based on the latitude and longitude. We'll get a lot of stuff done with this. So that's as far as I want to take you today. As I say, I'll put the calendar table up, and you've obviously now got our borough thing, so you can see, oh, now what I'm doing with that, man. It's dead easy, that. And bit of pill, it's of course you're stuck with Excel, aren't you? But how? You know, I can't have everything, can you? Anyway, seriously, you all need to take care of yourselves. There's like some weird stuff going on at the minute. There's even a riot going on in the town in Newcastle right now. I haven't got a clue anymore what's going on in this place. All of yous, take care of yourselves. There's enough bad stuff in the world. You know, the only things that come out from negativity is destruction. Be positive, honestly, stay sane, try and do better than me, because I'm honestly, my head is done in. I've realised I'm a week ahead of everything, and it's just messed with me head today. So take care, look after yourselves, and you know, just keep being decent folk, yeah? Cheers.